Welcome to the Group of Five Focus podcast, where we take some time each week to highlight a few significant G5 matchups and showcase the power of the Group of Five. I'm your host, Brian Doppel. This is the Season 2 premiere episode, so I'll share some of my predictions for the 2022 season, recap action from Week 0, and look forward to some Week 1 matchups. We'll get into it after the break. If you haven't heard about Anchor by Spotify, it's the easiest way to make a podcast with everything you need all in one place. Let me explain. Anchor has tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. When hosting on Anchor, you can distribute your podcast on listening platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcast, and much more. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place, and best of all, Anchor is totally free. Let me tell you from personal experience, when I first started this podcast, I knew about Anchor, but I wasn't sure if it was exactly the right tool for me. After a little poking around, I found that in fact it was, and when I had some questions when I first started my podcast, Anchor support was there to help. So if this sounds like it might be the tool for you to start your podcast, download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. All right, to kick this season off, I'd like to go ahead and share my preseason top 10 for the G5 for this season. I posted this on social media already, and it's got quite a bit of feedback, so I'm excited to share it with you all here. And I'll go in reverse order. So for my preseason top 10, ranked in 10th in the G5, I have UAB, the Blazers out of Birmingham. Number 9, I have SMU. Number 8, Cincinnati. Number 7, Utah State. Number 6, Appalachian State. Number 5, Boise State. Number 4, the UTSA Roadrunners. Number 3, Fresno State. Number 2, UCF. And number 1, Houston. I also wanted to take some time to go over my preseason conference projections. I won't go team by team because there's lots of those to go through. So I'll hit some of the highlights here, and I'll start in the American Athletic Conference. I'm projecting the University of Houston to finish perfect 8-0 in the American Athletic Conference this year and finish in first, just above UCF, who I have going 7-1, ECU finishing 6-2 in third, SMU at 6-2 in fourth, and Cincinnati in fifth at 5-3. Unfortunately, I've got Temple and Tulane down at the bottom, both going 4-8 overall and 0-8 in conference. I hope those projections are wrong, but that's what it looks like to me at the beginning of the season. For the CUSA, the last year that the CUSA is going to look like this, I'm projecting UTSA to finish perfect in conference at 11-1 overall and 8-0 in conference, just above UTEP, who I have projected at 9-3 overall and 7-1 in conference. I'm also projecting UAB to finish 7-1 in conference, but with UTEP having the tiebreaker there. I'm expecting Western Kentucky to have a good season overall at 11-2, but finishing 6-2 in conference, which puts them at fourth. And then down there at the bottom, I'm expecting FIU to finish 3-9 overall and 1-7 in conference. And unfortunately, the Owls of Rice, I'm projecting to go 1-11 and 0-8 this year. Again, hoping that they have a better season than I'm expecting, but that's what it looks like to me at this point. Now, as we move into the MAC, where things are divided into the Eastern and Western divisions, we'll start with the Eastern Division, where I expect Miami of Ohio to finish in first in the East at 9-3 and 7-1 in conference, followed by Kent State by quite a large margin. I'm expecting Kent State to finish 5-7 overall and 4-4 in conference. I know that Kent State was voted by the coaches in the MAC to finish in first in the division, maybe in the conference overall. But I see Miami being the stronger team this year and finishing with a better overall record. Finishing out the East, I'm expecting Ohio to finish 3-5, as well as Buffalo at 3-5, Akron to finish 1-7, and Bowling Green down there at 1-7 as well. Over in the West, I'm projecting NIU to win the West at 11-1 overall, 7-1 in conference, followed closely by Toledo, who I think will be a strong contender this year as well. I have them finishing at 9-3 and 7-1. Central Michigan, I'm anticipating having a good year as well, finishing at 8-4 and 6-2. And from there, Western Michigan, Ball State, and Eastern Michigan. Western Michigan, I expect to have a winning season at 7-5 and 5-3, but Ball State and Eastern Michigan, I'm expecting both to go 2-6 in conference, struggling quite a bit in conference play. We take a look at the star-studded Mountain West Conference. We'll start in the West for this conference, the Western Division. I'm expecting Fresno State to finish at 11-1 and 7-1 in conference. The Bulldogs look excellent this year. I think that they're going to capitalize on Jake Haener returning, as well as some other pieces to have a really great season in the Mountain West. San Diego State, another fan favorite. I have them finishing second, above San Jose State, Nevada, Hawaii, and UNLV. I've got Hawaii going 5-8 and 2-6. But unfortunately, I projected them winning against Vanderbilt last weekend, which did not happen. So they're going to have to make up that extra non-conference win somewhere else, I think. Over in the Mountain Division, I'm expecting Boise State to finish at 10-2 and 7-1. Same with Utah State at 10-2 and 7-1. Air Force, I have them being a really strong contender, and I was discussing this with someone recently that I think Air Force can probably give Boise State a run for their money. I'm expecting them for Air Force to beat Boise State at home this year. So these top three could really go any way. I have Air Force at 10-2 and 6-2 this year, followed by Wyoming, Colorado State, and New Mexico down there at the bottom. Unfortunately, I'm projecting them to go 0-8 this season as well. Lastly, my personal favorite conference, because I am a homer and I can't help it. But let's take a look at the Sun Belt. We'll start in the West Division. And starting from the bottom, unfortunately, I don't think ULM is going to have a bounce back year this year. I think they're going to struggle and finish in 7th in the West, just below Texas State, who I think is also going to struggle. I just don't think this is Texas State's year to break into the top of the West. The rest of the teams here, I think, have a pretty decent chance to take the West. South Alabama, I have finishing in 5th, but really a lot of these games I could predict will be close ones. I think South Alabama could be a real dark horse for the Western Division this year. Arkansas State, I've got finishing in 4th at 4-4, as well as newcomer to the Sun Belt, Southern Miss. I'm projecting a 6-6 overall and a 4-4 in conference. Southern Miss did a lot with a little last year, and I think that they're coming in more prepared this year. So I wouldn't be surprised if they finish the season at 500, get bowl eligible. The top two here. Of course, Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns, the reigning champs here. I think that they're going to take a step back, losing Coach Billy Napier to Florida, as well as all of the players that he took with him and the coaching staff as well. Louisiana is a strong team, and they're very deep, but I think that they might take a step back this year. So I have them finishing in 2nd, even with a better overall record than Troy. I think that Troy is going to beat Louisiana in the tiebreaker this year, and I think that Troy is going to win the West. Over in the East, I anticipate Georgia Southern under Clay Helton to improve from last year, but still struggle in an extremely strong Sun Belt East. So I've got them finishing in 7th at 3-9 and 1-7. I anticipate newcomers ODU to have a decent season at 6-6 overall, but finish 3-5 in the Sun Belt. Also, newcomers to the FBS, James Madison University, coming up and making quite a splash in their first season. I have them finishing at 6-5 and 4-4. I think that JMU has a good chance to not finish at the bottom of a strong conference this year, but something that is going differently for them compared to Appalachian and Georgia Southern when they made the transition to the FBS is simply just the strength of the Sun Belt as they're coming in. I think that JMU is a great team, but I think that they're coming into perhaps the strongest division in Group of 5 football, and so they have their work cut out for them. I'm projecting Coastal Carolina to finish in 4th at 8-4 and 5-3. I'm predicting Georgia State, led by Sean Elliott, to have a decent season this year, going 6-6 in overall play, but a strong 5-3 in conference. They've got a tough out-of-conference schedule, playing South Carolina at South Carolina, hosting North Carolina, and playing at Army. So they've got a few things going against them to make this a challenging non-conference schedule. But I think that they're going to do very well in conference and perhaps upset some people to finish 5-3 in conference. For the top two here, I've got Marshall finishing at 9-3 in an excellent first season in the Sun Belt. I think that they're coming in extremely strong, and hopefully they'll get their star running back Rasheen Ali back very soon, because he is a key part of this offense that makes this 9-3 projection and 6-2 in conference work. Without Ali, I don't know that this happens, and I could see Marshall slipping down quite a bit. And I'm projecting Appalachian State to finish 11-1 overall and 8-0 in conference. I think the Apps are coming back strong this year. They have a young receiving core coming in, but they're bringing back Chase Bryce, the quarterback. They're bringing back 3 of the strongest running backs in the group of 5, if not the country. And their defense it always has the next man up mentality. So even though they lost several people to the draft, I think they're going to come back just fine and be an extremely strong team. I'm predicting their only loss to be at Texas A&M because it's Texas A&M and they're playing on the road. But we'll see how that goes. They're also hosting North Carolina this weekend in week 1 in Boone. So that will be a great challenge for them to start the season as well. So those are my group of 5 conference projections for the year. We'll see how they go. Of course, last week on Saturday, we had the first games of the 2022 football season in our week 0 play. So let's go ahead and recap some of those key games that were played last Saturday. First of all, the first game of the season was Austin Peay playing at Western Kentucky. Western Kentucky survived that game, winning 38-27. They were led by their quarterback Reed, who transferred in, I believe, with the departure of Bailey Zappi at the end of his record-setting season last year. And Reed threw for 279 yards and 4 touchdowns and an interception. Their leading receiver was Dawood Davis. He had an excellent day, getting 6 receptions for 124 yards and a touchdown. He was a big difference maker. And Western Kentucky was able to come back in the fourth quarter to defeat Austin Peay. They scored 17 points to get this win, and they won by 11 there. And again, 17 of those in the fourth quarter. So starting off the season 1-0 were the Hilltoppers. Charlotte also went down to Florida to play Florida Atlantic, and what I projected would be a win for the 49ers turned out to be a blowout loss. Florida Atlantic starts out the season 1-0 overall and 1-0 in conference after defeating Charlotte 43-13 in what was just an ugly game. At halftime, FAU was winning 26-7, and it didn't get any better for Charlotte from there. Another game I predicted wrong, where North Texas went out to El Paso to play UTEP in the Sun Bowl. I thought UTEP would hold down the home field advantage there, but UNT got the win 31-13 in a great game out there in West Texas. We also had a number of Mountain West teams play last Saturday. Idaho State was hosted by UNLV, and the Rebels of UNLV got the win there 52-21 behind a dominant performance by quarterback Doug Brumfield, who passed for 356 yards. That's a great way to start the season for the Rebs. UConn went to Utah State, and after a difficult start, it seemed like the Aggies got things under control against the Huskies, and Utah State got the win at home to start the season. Also playing in the Mountain West on Saturday was Wyoming as they traveled to play at Illinois, a game that I thought that the Cowboys would be a little more competitive in, but unfortunately they lost 38-6 on the road. Nevada played at New Mexico State, who's under new coach Jerry Kill this year, and I also thought that New Mexico State would put up a little more of a fight here, but Nevada beat the Aggies 23-12. And lastly, Vanderbilt traveled across the ocean to Hawaii in a game where I expected Hawaii to win, but unfortunately Vanderbilt flexed their SEC muscles and defeated Hawaii 63-10. Okay, let's get to this week's matchups. All right, going into week 1, the official week 1, there are a few key G5 games to keep an eye on this week. First of which is on Saturday, where number 23 ranked Cincinnati goes to play at number 19 Arkansas in Fayetteville. That's on at 3:30 on Saturday. Also, number 24 Houston travels to UTSA in what is sure to be an excellent showdown between these two very good G5 teams. Also, some more G5 on G5 action here. We've got Tulsa traveling to Wyoming on Saturday, as well as SMU going to North Texas in an in-state rivalry game between these two Texas teams. In Conference USA this week, on Saturday, UTEP travels to number 9 Oklahoma to cause a big stir if they can pull off the upset there. We've also got Florida Atlantic going to Ohio to take on the Bobcats in some CUSA versus MAC Week 1 action. Middle Tennessee State will be traveling to James Madison University in JMU's first FBS game. And Western Kentucky takes the trip across the pond over to Hawaii to see what they can do against the Rainbow Warriors. In the MAC, Central Michigan is going to Oklahoma State, ranked number 12 in the country right now, to see if they can pull off the upset in Boone Pickens Stadium. Ball State's going to Tennessee to try to do the same, while Toledo hosts Long Island University, and Northern Illinois hosts Eastern Illinois. Those games are all on Thursday, while on Friday, Western Michigan will go to number 15, Michigan State, not too far down the road, to see if they can do some damage against the Spartans. Meanwhile, on Saturday, Buffalo goes to Maryland in what I think might be a winnable game for Buffalo, while Bowling Green goes to UCLA, and as I mentioned earlier, Florida Atlantic goes to Ohio. Also heading down south is Miami as they travel to number 20 Kentucky in Lexington to see if they can take down the Wildcats. And to wrap things up here in the Mountain West, we've got none other than Utah State traveling to Tuscaloosa to take on number 1 Alabama on Saturday, September 3rd at 7:30 p.m. Hoping to pull off perhaps the most sensational of upsets. And lastly, there's a lot going on in the Sun Belt this weekend. Virginia Tech is traveling to Old Dominion to take on the Monarchs on Friday evening. So if you got nothing going on Friday, I would check out ODU hosting in-state rival Virginia Tech. That'll be a great game out there in Norfolk. Troy is heading across state lines to take on number 21 Ole Miss. As I mentioned earlier, James Madison is hosting Middle Tennessee in their FBS opener, while Coastal Carolina hosts Army. Southern Miss hosts Liberty in what's sure to be a good game there. And Georgia State goes to South Carolina, while UL Monroe goes to Texas. Something I'd like to do new this season is share with you a couple of rivalries that will be played each week. These are historic rivalries. They've usually got good nicknames, lots of tension, lots of hatred even, and are sure to provide excellent matchups for fans and teams alike. So the first one that I'm excited about this week is the Safeway Bowl, classic matchup between North Texas and SMU that dates all the way back to 1922. And these teams have played 41 times since then. The overall record goes to SMU at 34-6-1, and SMU has won the last 3. So this is a good game for those in-state Texas rivalries. I think that this could go either way this year. I do have SMU with a slight edge, but North Texas could easily pull this thing off again this year. So looking forward to see who wins the Safeway Bowl this year between North Texas and SMU. Also being played this year is the famous rivalry between Louisiana and Southeast Louisiana for the Cypress Mug. The first meeting between these two teams goes all the way back to 1930. Their latest meeting was back in 2017, where Louisiana only defeated Southeastern Louisiana 51 to 48, a slim 3-point margin between what was then Louisiana, a Sun Belt team, versus Southeastern Louisiana, a small FCS team out of Hammond, Louisiana. They play in the Southland Conference. So it wasn't long ago that Southeastern Louisiana gave the Raging Cajuns a run for their money, and they play again for the first time in 5 years this weekend. To round out this first episode of the 22 season, I'm going to share a little context, a little information about a couple of games that I'm excited to watch this weekend. My first one is the matchup of the week, and then I'll also go into my big-time upset. I'll make a prediction for that upset as well. But as I said, we're going to start with my matchup of the week, and this week that honor goes to the App State Mountaineers hosting the UNC Tar Heels here in beautiful Boone, North Carolina, where I'm sitting right now. This game is on Saturday the 3rd at 12 p.m. Eastern at Kidd Brewer Stadium in Boone, and you can watch it on ESPNU if you're not there in person. That is to say, if you couldn't afford the $500 tickets to see it in person. Carolina is coming in at 1-0, having played Florida A&M University last week. They got a nice win, and their new quarterback, May, passed for 5 touchdowns. However, the Tar Heels allowed 24 points to Florida A&M, so I'm assuming Appalachian will be able to score a little bit more than that if FAMU is able to get that many on them. Historically, App and Carolina have only played twice. Their first matchup was in 1940, where Carolina won pretty handily, but most recently they played in Chapel Hill in 2019, where Appalachian got a nice win on the road there at Carolina. A couple of players to keep an eye out on for this game. For Appalachian, it's really, for me, on offense, it's the running game. The running back core of Nate Noel, Cam Peoples, Dietrich Harrington, as well as a couple of other younger guys. This running back room is extremely deep, and as long as the O-line can make the space, like they do, like they always do, I think they're in good shape. But that'll be something to keep an eye on, as well as quarterback Chase Bryce passing to a youngish wide receiver core. App lost their 3 starting wide receivers in the offseason, whether it's to the NFL or otherwise. And so seeing how these new wide receivers come in as first stringers, they're not new, they've been around the program, but starting the game at first string is a bit of a different beast. So to see how they adjust there, that'll be something to keep an eye on as well. On the defensive side, App is defensive back university, right? It's DBU all the way. Nick Hampton and Trey Cobb. Trey Cobb last year had 72 tackles, 6 of them for loss, 4 passes defended, and 3 interceptions. Those 2 guys are going to be, in my opinion, they're going to be running that defense, as well as cornerback Stephen Jones, who last year had 72 tackles, 8 passes defended, and 5 interceptions. As well as defensive tackle Jordan Earl holding things down on the defensive line. He's the veteran on that line, and so he's going to be one to keep an eye on as well. Look forward to seeing him get into the backfield and push that Carolina quarterback around a little bit. So according to ESPN's Football Power Index, they've got UNC with a 54.6% chance to win this game, but I think that App is going to win this game. 35-23 is my prediction. I drive past the football stadium every day on my way to work, and they put in those temporary bleachers down there, adding 10,000 seats to the stadium. I think that Carolina has no clue what they're coming into Boone this weekend. So I think App is going to pull off the win in pretty big fashion here. Thus, just confirming what they already believe, which is that they are the best football team in North Carolina. So look forward to seeing that on Saturday. That is my matchup of the week. Each week I also share a matchup that I'm putting on Upset Alert. And this matchup always contains at least one team ranked in the top 25 or AP, or granted at least a 70% chance to win according to ESPN's Football Power Index. So this week, the team that I predict will upset their opponent is ECU in their matchup against number 13 NC State. This matchup is on Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern at Dowdy-Ficklin Stadium in Greenville, North Carolina, and you can watch it on ESPN. ESPN's Football Power Index has NC State with a 74.8% chance to win this game, but I think their season is going to get off to a rocky start. Here's why. Neither of these teams have played yet this season, which I think gives ECU quite a bit of an advantage. That, along with being at home at Dowdy-Ficklin Stadium in a historic rivalry, these two teams have played a number of times. In fact, they've played 31 times, with NC State having the slight edge, 18-13 in those matchups, and they've won the last two as well, including the largest margin of victory at 58-3 back in 2018. But this Pirates team is not the same as 2018 ECU team. They're playing at home. They're playing a huge rival in NC State. This game is, it is in fact a historic rivalry. They're playing for the Victory Barrel over in Greenville this weekend. So I'm anticipating a big ECU fan turnout. I think they're going to stay the whole time. They're going to get loud. And NC State, even though they're coming into the season ranked, one of their most anticipated seasons in a very long time for the Wolfpack, I think that ECU is going to have an edge because of the home field advantage and because of the early season matchup where neither team has seen much of each other yet this season. Specifically on the Pirates, I'm looking at quarterback Horton Allers. I think that if they're going to have any success, of course the offense runs through the quarterback, so he's one to watch, as well as a running back duo of Mitchell and Harris. They're an excellent duo. I think that especially Harris, I think, has an opportunity to do some to step up quite a bit and support Mitchell as well this year. They've also got a wide receiver transfer out of Toledo, Isaiah Winstead, who I think is looking to make some big moves with the Pirates this season. So I would look for him to make a big splash out of the gate this season. On defense, they've got a number of guys ready to go, lined up, ready to eat up some Wolfpack, including defensive end Rick Diabreu, which I'm sure I'm mispronouncing, and I apologize, as well as defensive tackle Elijah Morris, defensive end Xavier Smith, and cornerback Malik Fleming. I think all of these guys could be impact players on the defensive side for the Pirates. My big-time upset prediction is that ECU will beat North Carolina State 30-27, and that's my Group of 5 upset alert of the week. Thanks for joining me this week on the Group of 5 Focus podcast. Do you agree or disagree with my picks? Did I miss any historic rivalries? Do you have any suggestions for upcoming matchups that I should break down? Reach out on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at G5FPod to join the conversation and let me know. And if you haven't already, please follow, rate, and review on your podcast platform of choice, and be sure to share it with your favorite Group of 5 fans. That's all for this week on the Group of 5 Focus podcast. Until next time, my question for you is, what is one thing you can do to showcase the power of the Group of 5?